This video is brought to you by atzmut.org. If you would like to dedicate a class in honor of someone, please contact us via our website at www.atzmut.org. Please subscribe to this channel to be notified about new videos.
And we know that when a person does a mitzvah, he creates levushim, spiritual garments. And every mitzvah corresponds to one spiritual garment. If chas v'shalom a person also did a avera, he creates a blemish on this garment. And if he didn't do tshuva in this world, then the soul goes up to Shamayim with a blemish on the garment. And then the soul... Blemish is ketem. The thing is, when chas v'shalom a person does a wrong thing, avera, a sin, then he creates a blemish. Blemish is more nezek on his soul. It's like a lichluch. You know, when you go out and you work outside, your clothes get dirty. There's a lichluch, a stain on the body, on the garment. You throw it in the washing machine and you wash the garment and everything's fine. The same way as our soul gets dressed in different garments, in spiritual garments. And when a person does a mitzvah, he creates a garment, and each mitzvah corresponds to a different garment. If you look at a garment in our days, it has sleeves and it has all sorts of designs. Same thing, there's a spiritual garment. If chas v'shalom a person does an avera, does a sin, he creates a stain on this garment. Depends on the avera. Each avera goes on a different place on this garment. Some of the sins are so severe it makes a severe stain on the garment. Some of the sins are not so severe, it's a small stain. Sometimes it's the same sin over and over and over, makes many stains. The trick here is to do tshuva in this world. A person does tshuva in this world, he washes off these stains. Comes Yom Kippur and he washes off the stains. For severe sins, even Yom Kippur doesn't help. The person has to go through what's called Yesurim and all sorts of other things. But better cleaning it in this world. Because if the neshama goes up to Shamayim, if the soul goes up to Shamayim with all these stains, then the washing machine in Shamayim is very painful for the neshama. So we know it as the famous place that nobody wants to go to is Gehenom. Gehenom is a washing machine where the soul has to go through and get washed all these garments. Chas v'shalom lo alenu v'lo al af echad. The whole point is that one wants to be lucky enough to do tshuva in this world, because the tshuva in this world removes all these stains. And if chas v'shalom the sins are severe, then the person has to go through what's called Yisurim, which is in kind of equivalent to suffering. That's why it says the sages teach us lekabel et Yisurim ba'ava, accept all the Yisurim, all the suffering with a lot of love, because it's Hashem cleaning all this dirt that you accumulated with your sins. Hashem is cleaning it in this world. And better to suffer in this world than to suffer in the world above. And the thing is that it's so important to have mitzvot to create these garments, but it's even more important to keep these mitzvot clean, to keep the garments clean, because I can have a lot of garments, a lot of spiritual garments, but if chas v'shalom I do sins, I make these garments dirty. And the only way of doing it without suffering in the world to come is doing tshuva in this world. And in my personal experience, you will hear, B'ezrat Hashem, if you come, and the ones that already heard, is how when I went up to Shamayim, I didn't even have garments. I didn't even have mitzvot. I was completely naked from mitzvot. That not only that I didn't have a garment that it was dirty, I didn't have anything. And that's even worse feeling than having a dirty garment. And that's how important the mitzvot are. So even, connected to the lesson that we have, as a woman with one little thing can achieve all these garments, these spiritual garments, with one little act, with this levush in this world. This physical levush brings on the soul of the woman the spiritual levush, the spiritual garment. So we know there's Kabbalah talks about 3 levels of the garments: machshava, dibur, and maaseh. Thought, speech, and action. These are the 3 categories of these garments. And each category has numerous levels. But the garments can be in machshava. A person can do a sin in his thought. And it actually says that this sin in the level of the thought is 10 times worse than the actual act itself. If a person does a hirhur avera, it's worse than actually doing the avera, doing the sin, if just thinking of doing it. So the thing is that these garments come in 3 levels. So that tzniut can be b'maaseh, with act, meaning the dress, the way a person or a woman walks or behaves. It can be b'dibur, with her speaking. A woman can be very tznuah with how she speaks. A woman can be covered from top to bottom, but talk not modest. And b'machshava, which is a higher level of a garment, much more refined garment, which is a thought. And the level of the thought, the garment of machshava, because it's so refined, it's also much easier to lekalkel, to blemish it. So the machshava, the thought, has to be much more pure than anything else. So that tzniut starts with your thoughts, with how you think. And it can be in many different ways. But in all 3 of these levels, one should tap into all these levels of these garments. Not only dressing, covering yourself. I get a lot of people asking me the same question, because it doesn't say that tzniut necessarily means that a woman has to wear a dress. And you see a lot of women that they're wearing pants. And they're telling me, I get a lot of this question, is that has to do with the tzniut? So the answer is that for a woman to wear pants, it has nothing to do with the concept of tzniut. It comes from the mitzvah that a woman should not wear a garment of a man. Lo tilbash levush gever. And a man is not allowed to wear a garment of a woman. A man is not allowed to go with a dress or makeup, or in our days, Hashem Yerachem, what men wear on themselves. So the concept of pants for women is shelo tilvash levush gever. A woman is not allowed to put on herself a garment of a man. Obviously, you know, somebody asked me not too long ago. I went to speak to a group of young girls, and it was very touchy subject for them, the whole modesty, because they're young girls, and for them they think that the more not modest you are, the better it is, because you can attract the men better. And it was very hard to explain to them the concept of the modesty. And one girl stood up and she said, I don't understand. I wear pants, but they're not tight. And I wear a shirt and it's not tight. And I sometimes see girls wearing a dress, but it's so tight you can see every crease of the body. And the shirt is so tight you can see every angle of the body. So what's motznuah? Wearing a dress and a tight shirt, or to wear how I'm dressed? The point is that the concept, a woman has to think for herself how she wants to present herself. But the concept is not to attract any attention. Because when a woman attracts attention, the eyes of a man, if a woman goes in the street and she attracts attention of 10, 50, 100 men, then she has 100 eyes looking at her, and she's giving that attention to all these eyes. And the problem is that this allows to have achiza, what I explained before, to have a grasp. These chitzonim, these klipot can have a grasp on it. And essentially what it does, it hurts the woman. Doesn't hurt them. It can hurt the man if he chas v'shalom does what he does, or if he sins in his thoughts or in his action. But what it does, because it removes the shield of the woman, then these klipot, this negative energy, has a grasp on it, and it can to damage the woman, lazik the woman. Yeah.
Question do you ever let's say you're stuck in the DMV or something, do you ever read Tehillim live?
Me?
Yeah. Do you ever do that when you just happen to be someplace?
Every second that I have that is free, then I read something.
Okay. So
Even in the line to anything, I sit in the car, I always have things on me, and when I don't have something on me, I'll start chanting off by heart Tehillim.
So let me ask you something. If somebody notices you, is that a problem? Because that happens, that's like, I read Tehillim, and most of the time, some man will come up to me and say, please pray for me also.
That's fine. Oh, you mean if you're creating?
I don't know why they're not, it's weird. I'm like, it could be any book. Why, how do they even know? I don't know.
Maybe they're Jewish and they see the Tehillim.
No, necessarily.
No?
There was one time I was an Arab man.
They probably see the kedusha radiating from you, that they see, wow, a holy woman, let me ask her to pray for me. The thing is that a woman, even in public, should be even modest in reading, because like you said, it also attracts attention. Even positive attention, it's still attention. But a woman doesn't have a chiyuv to all day long do things. A man, actually, every second that he doesn't study Torah, he's nichshal be'avon bitul Torah.
So you're saying it's better not to do it, like not to?
If you feel that it's going to bring too much attention, look, if you sing like you said in the DMV, so you know you hold the book of Tehillim like this, and you read it. If you feel that it's going to bring negative attention, then better not to. But usually the kedusha that's in your reading of Tehillim will overpower any bad attention that you're going to bring to yourself. The problem is that when a woman brings attention to herself, in order for it to be negative, the attention has to be negative. And usually it has to be with the way she talks, the way she walks, the way she dresses, the way she interacts. If a woman sits and reads something, it's not necessarily going to draw negative attention. It's going to draw maybe some attention, but
So it's okay.
no, that's definitely okay. I thought you were asking because when I walk in the streets, I either say Tehillim off by heart, or I say Mishnayot off by heart, or I say also the thing off by heart. Why waste the time? You know, it says that the day will come, then everybody will demand justice. So the ground that you were walking on will go to Hashem and says, that man stepped on me. I was created for this man to step on me, and he didn't say Torah when he was walking on me. And the ground will demand justice from Hashem. So we're obligated to, everywhere we go, to constantly say Torah. I'm talking about a man. A man for 1 second doesn't talk, he's nechshal ba'avon bitul Torah. So I walk in the street, I mumble. So sometimes people look at me, they think I'm crazy. Now, 15 years ago, when you would talk to yourself, you would completely be crazy. Now everybody's with a Bluetooth or something, so everybody's talking to themselves. But sometimes I'm in an elevator and I'll be like this. I don't care if somebody will think that I'm crazy. So, but you also have to, even a man, he has to make sure that the attention that he attracts, if I go in the street looking like this, every move that I do can either do Kiddush Hashem or Chilul Hashem. So I have to be very careful with how I behave in public. So much more so also a woman, especially when it's very obvious that you're Jewish, a woman also has an inyan of Chilul Hashem or Kiddush Hashem. Slicha? Yeah, of course Kiddush Hashem, but in everything it says B'chol Derechecha De'eu. In every act and everything that you do, you have to involve the Shem in it. So a woman, her main mitzvah is tzniut, so everywhere you go you have to concentrate, would Hashem be happy right now with how I'm talking? Would Hashem would be happy right now with how I'm walking? Would Hashem be happy right now with how I'm dressed? A woman constantly has to reach to the level of saying, right now I would want Hashem in my house. Is Hashem going to be happy right now in my house? Is Hashem going to be happy right now in how my wardrobe looks, etc.? When a person constantly evolves in the mind, what does Hashem think right now? Then a person constantly involves Hashem in his or her life. In regards to what you ask, any person doesn't want to draw any bad attention to him. So sometimes you have to use your common sense. What am I gaining more right now? But for a woman sitting, quietly tznuah in a corner and reading, if a man came to you and told you, please pray for me, I can assure you it's only because this kedusha, this holiness that was radiating out of you, that he was like, wow, here's a holy woman. I want to ask her to pray for me. So you brought some attention, but it could be that you also brought a great Kiddush Hashem by saying, sure, I'll pray for you. So, but the constant thought has to be is Hashem happy right now with what I'm doing, and what's the attention that I'm bringing? A lot of people interpret the pasuk, Kol kevoda bat melech penima, is that a woman has to be more b'pnimiyut, not to go out, not to be flashy, not to talk loud, not to do too much. Everything, even in the street, not to bring too much attention. Because when a woman brings attention too much to her, then that's what brings the negative attention. Unfortunately, I don't have to explain to you all, men get aroused in a second. Aroused, I mean into their concentration. Go to the most orthodox neighborhood in the world and put a woman there that is not modest, the most biggest people will still, they lose their attention. And that's where the Yetzer Hara gets stressed the most. So a woman doesn't want to become a merkava, a wagon to the Samech Mem. Because that's one of the problems is when a woman doesn't act the right way, especially when she doesn't dress modest, she becomes what's called a merkava. Merkava is like a wagon. Merkava means that, if you look at these, in the olden days was a horse and a wagon, the horse goes to the right, the wagon goes to the right. The horse goes to the left, the wagon goes to the left. So I can become a merkava to Kedusha, that wherever I go, the Kedusha is with me, and I can become chas v'shalom merkava for the Tumah. So in chas v'shalom, when a woman is not dressed in a very immodest way, she becomes a merkava to the Tumah, to the Samech Mem. He gets dressed in her, and he's able to pull the what's called the moshchot. How do you call it in English? The reins. And then chas v'shalom, the woman can become the merkava, and she doesn't want to do it. Why should she become the vessel for the impurity? The woman wants to become the vessel of purity and morality, not the immorality. So a woman has a very, very prominent and dominant part in Avodat Hashem, because every little thing that she does, and it's not only that, is how she behaves in her house, how her husband is looking at her if she's married, how the kids look at her, how her daughters look at her. So, a woman has such responsibility that every little thing that she does, she has to take to consideration, my sons are looking at me right now, my daughters are looking at me right now, every little thing. But the more she elevates herself, she refines her own midot and own garments, all these spiritual garments. And she's able to achieve much more than what a man achieves with all his avodah. And she has the ability to reverse everything.
Many women call me, they say that they want to come forward because the lecture that we give and the shiur that we give and everything. And they really call me because they feel kind of guilty about it. They say that they have a prevention, sometimes it's from their husband, he doesn't let them cover their hair, doesn't let them wear a skirt. I say, well, you okay, you're fine, it's fine, you're doing mitzvah. So, problem, what to tell them, I don't want them to fight at home. And I don't want them to take their hair cover if they decided on Shabbat. Kind of conflict.
It's a very, very difficult thing in our generation. Is that I don't know if you all heard the question, but she's saying in many situations, the woman wants to elevate herself, she wants to cover her hair, she wants to be dressed tznuah and all that, and the husband doesn't want it, and there's a big conflict. And unfortunately, there's no answer. There's no answer that you say, this is the answer, it will work for everybody, because kol mikre legufo, each case has to be dealt differently. And the thing is, the ultimate is that you want to reach to a point that the husband will accept it. So if the woman can do it, there has to be a way to find a back door to reach to the husband. But unfortunately, there's no hocus pocus answer what to do. Obviously, the best thing is most important thing is Shlom Bayit. We learn even in the Torah, we learn even in the Torah, there's the story of Sotah, of the woman who the husband suspects that she was with another man. Amen. Amen. There's a story, so the husband suspects that the woman was with a man, and he takes the woman to the Kohen, to the priest, and the priest gives her to drink from this water, and if she has the stomach ache, there's a whole story. But in this story we learn that Hashem says, you can erase, Toda Rabba, you can erase my name, just for the cause of Shlom Bayit. So the problem is that here it has to be done in a very wise and responsible way, because a lot of people say, oh, Shlom Bayit is more important than patarti ta baya. I solved the problem.
I had a man who came to me and said, why you tell my wife to put the hair cover? Why? I don't like her with hair cover. And I'm like, take it off. You don't like. And I felt, and I said, why did I say that? I felt terrible. Just for Shalom Bayit. He said, okay, now I like you better.
Yeah, it's a very, very tough problem in our generation with many, many couples. Unfortunately, there's no simple answer. The only way to actually get to do it is to somehow find a way to approach the husband. And if the husband in his right mind will slowly find out the benefits in it, then, but in the meantime, you know, the etzah, the advice for a woman that her husband gives her a lot of headache is when she's not with the husband is to still do it. So during the day when the husband...
Put the hat. You come to shoot.
No, even if the husband is in the job the whole day, so at home she can cover her hair. You know, it says, there's a big question in halacha, on Yom Kippur, you have to fast. If a person ate something on Yom Kippur, one by mistake, a little crumb fell into his mouth, so he ate on Yom Kippur. Does he stop the fast, or does he continue with the fast? That's a question in halacha. So the halacha explains that no, he doesn't stop the fast. He has to continue the fast, because he only broke the fast for this couple seconds that he ate.
Repeat what you were saying about the fast?
There's a question in halacha,
Yes.
in the oral law.
Yes.
If a person on Yom Kippur fasted, and then by mistake he ate, or he yawned, and something fell into his mouth and he ate. Beshogeg.
Yes.
By mistake.
He fell on the floor and there was a crumb there, and somehow, miraculously, the crumb fell into his mouth. It wasn't even intentionally. The question in halacha is, I'm saying it in a funny way, but the question is, if a person ate, doesn't matter b'shogeg or b'mezid, by mistake or or intentionally, did he ate? Does he stop the fast or not? The halacha says he doesn't stop the fast.
Yes.
He has to continue the fast because he only broke the fast for these 20 seconds. This halacha also teaches us regarding Shabbat. You have 24 hours a day that you have to keep the Shabbat. If I by mistake or deliberately broke Shabbat, do I stop keeping Shabbat? Oh, okay, I turned the light off by mistake, so let me go out and I'll drive. No. You broke Shabbat for these 2 seconds that you turned the light on, or whatever you did. So that's the halacha. Toda Rabba. So we learn from that every second in any mitzvah counts. Every second. So if I have to do a mitzvah 60% instead of 100%, do the mitzvah 60%. It's not doing it maybe the right way. You're not doing it in completion, but at least you're doing some of it. That's why the etzah with a lot of people who starts keeping Shabbat, it's very hard for them in the beginning. A person who's a Baal Tshuva, start keeping Shabbat, okay, the first 4 hours it's easy. Then the next day you're already going crazy. So a lot of people, they start keeping Shabbat couple hours and then it's too hard and they can't do it. They start talking on the phone, they open the TV, whatever. But at least they got 8 hours of keeping Shabbat. Like once we had a guest that came to our house. Betach. We had a guest once who came to our house, was Shabbat, Friday night, and I was trying to convince him, in a tricky way to stay. I told him, stay, it's late, go to sleep on the couch, it's fine. I just wanted him not to break Shabbat. And I was, in a tricky way telling him, it's late, why are you going to now find your way home? Just sleep over. Doesn't matter, in the morning he woke up and he left, but in my mind I was like, I made him keep Shabbat another 11 hours. So Hashem knows exactly where we're holding. Hashem knows our difficulties, and Hashem knows our challenges. But at least if you can grab 100% of the mitzvah, then grab 50% of the mitzvah. Ki mitoch shelo lishma yavo lishma. If it's the easiest way to translate it, if when you're doing something without the intention, eventually you'll do it with the intention. So the etzah for that, yes, Shlom Bayit is almost in most cases more important. Because there's a big question here. Halakha tells you you're not allowed to do avera in order to do a mitzvah. You're not allowed to do that. A lot of people say, I want to go on Shabbat to pray. It's a big mitzvah. But the shul It's 5 miles away, so I'm going to drive to the shul. You're not allowed to do an avera in order to do a mitzvah. You're not allowed to do that. And that can be explained in many different ways. So in many times, one may say, yes, Shlom Bayit is very important, but on other times, Shlom Bayit also has to be, has to be defined when am I not doing a certain avera. So it has to be done in a very diplomatic way. But the etzah, at least in the beginning, is if you can do 100% of the mitzvah, then do 50%. So your husband doesn't want you to cover your hair, so cover your hair when he's at work.
What if a guest is driving on Shabbat? In general, they're driving.
You're not allowed to invite them. You're not allowed to invite them. No. You can tell the guest, I'm having a Shabbat meal, I'm having amazing food, and there's going to be great guests, and there's going to be beautiful divrei Torah. We're starting the meal at 8. You can't tell them, come to my house, I want to invite you. You cannot do that. You can tell them you're having a meal. You can entice them by saying the food is going to be gourmet, and your favorite people are going to be in the table, and we have a rabbi who's going to talk all night. And you can entice the person, but you can't invite that person.
So it's their choice to show up.
Yeah, if they want to show, they show up. And when they show up, you also, of course, you want to tell them, you should stay with us. So, but you're not allowed.
Knowing that they're driving, you can still entice them? Knowing that
No, you can entice, you can invite. Entice by saying I'm having an amazing Shabbat meal with great food.
What if they do show up, but you know that their house is far away, so they're going to end up driving to your house?
That's why you're not allowed to invite them. You can just say, I'm having a Shabbat meal.
Or anybody wants.
Yeah, you're not allowed to invite somebody on Shabbat to come to your house.
Open
Espe-
house.
Yeah, the easiest way, what I would say to people, I'm having a Shabbat meal, I have a lot of guests coming, we have great food, great company, and a lot of Divrei Torah, it's amazing. I can't tell a person you're invited to come. I can tell a person, if you want to spend Shabbat with me, then you have to, I'll have a room for you, you can sleep over, you're more than welcome to sleep over, and etc., etc. But I can't tell a person, come to my Shabbat meal knowing that he's going to drive. Yeah. So I'll tell you a different example. On Pesach is a Yom Tov, you're not allowed to drive too. And previous years, we also always had a big Leil Seder, and I would want to invite people to come and spend the Leil Seder. So again, you can't invite the person. I would say the same thing. Tonight is Pesach, I'm having a very big Seder, I'm going to have food. Kiyad HaMelech, there's going to be a lot of food, and I'm going to explain the Haggadah, and it's going to be a beautiful night. I have a lot of room, a lot of guests are coming. Can't tell a person, you're invited, please come.
And what if they say, can I come? So then you say, I'll have to have a room for you, and you'll have to stay here. That's
you can tell if you want to come, no problem, I'll set a place to stay. You can't say in a direct way, please come, because then you have some type of a partnership in the Avera. You can't do that.
No, but if they stay over, it's okay.
Yeah, of course. When I invite a lot of people to come and spend Shabbat in my house, I know they're going to talk on the phone or do things, but if I know that they're going to spend the entire Shabbat in my house, I know they're going to talk and they're going to go out and talk on the phone, but at least if I have them close to me 24 hours a day, and they're going to eat kosher food, and they're going to hear Kiddush, and they're going to hear Torah, and they're going to see the Kedusha in the house, and the kids, and so it's more important to lekarev. It's much more important and powerful to influence somebody by showing the beauty of it. You can't tell them, come, I want to invite you. If a person comes and tells you, I really want to come for you to Shabbat, no problem. If you want, I have a room, I'll set you up with a bed. And if I don't have a bed, I have a neighbor. No, I'm going to sleep at home. No, if you're my guest, you have to be my guest. I cannot have you drive because of me. No, don't worry, it's mine. No. You have to be direct. The easiest way is just not to directly invite somebody. We see it when a person has a brit, does a brit milah to his son. You're not allowed to invite people. You just say that when is the brit. Here it's from a different reason, because Eliyahu Navi comes to the Brit. Some say Avraham Avinu comes to the Brit, and many tzaddikim come to the Brit. And what's going to happen if you invite somebody and he tells you, okay, I'm going to come to your son's brit, and then he doesn't show up? That's an I don't know if to say mocking, but it's not honorable that he said, I'm coming to the brit, knowing that Eliyahu Navi is going to be there, and then I don't come. So you don't want to lachshil nobody. You say the brit is going to be at 8 o'clock in this place. Everybody's invited. There's going to be food. There's going to be entertainment. Eliyahu Navi is going to be there. You're going to have a sandak there who's going to give brachot. But with the brit, you're also not allowed to tell somebody, come to my son's brit. But in Chagim and Shabbats, you're allowed to make it sound very nice and say, if you're interested in coming, I'll set you up in a place to sleep. I have a big house, I have a room. You're more than welcome to stay. But that's a big mitzvah. That's the ultimate way to actually to lekarev somebody, to bring somebody close, is to actually show it to him. You know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. If you come in the street and you tell somebody, oh, Shabbat is great, yeah, come to my house and I'll show you how great Shabbat. So definitely you want to do that, but you have to know how to do it. So going back to what we were saying with the according to the halacha, with fasting on Yom Kippur and all that, in regards to your question, if a person can do 100% the mitzvah, and even if he's doing the mitzvah half, like 50%, and it's not the right way, better to start somewhere. Because you know, let's say you sit with a woman who wants to cover her hair and the husband doesn't let her, or doesn't want. So when she's at home, and he's at work, at least she has half a day she's with, and you know what's going to happen? That in a spiritual level, it's going to hit, you know, in the physical realm, there's something that is called tat muda, the subconscious. That you can, there's many ways to explain how to work on the subconscious, but there's also the same way in the spiritual way. So the way subconscious works is that if you hear something, like an advertisement on the radio, or you see a billboard, it goes, you may be just looking at the billboard for a second, but it goes and registers in your subconscious. And then you can actually bring it out from the subconscious to the conscious, from the tat muda to the muda. The same thing you have in the spiritual realm. So in that case, if a woman goes with a hair covering during the day when the husband is at work, she brings down this spiritual koach into this world, that in the spiritual subconscious of the husband, you know, when he catches her at home with a kisur, with a head covering, it's not going to be the end of the world. Oh no, I just prayed, so I covered my hair. But he sees her, you know what I mean? In the terms of Chassidut, it says, the noten koach. I can do something now, and it gives strength to, or in a easier way to explain it, it brings this energy to the world. So if a woman wants to cover her hair and her husband is against it, she can cover it when he's not next to her. It brings this koach to the world. She wants to be dressed tznuah a certain way, then if causes a fight, no problem. Here I'll respect you when I'm not next to you.
Yeah,
and
no way when I'm with you.
And the point is that to make sure that he catches her every now and then. So he says that way also, and also another way. He says, see, I respect you next to you, no? But now I just prayed, so I wanted to be tznuah. I just read Tehillim, I wanted to be more tznuah. So it brings down the koach to the world. But unfortunately, there's no answer. The woman has to pray so much.
Between the years, kind of.
Yeah, you need a lot of
Still don't have an answer.
a lot of seyata dishmaya. And the thing is, the answer only can come when you know the husband. One husband will say, I don't want her to cover her hair because she looks like this and like that. One person will say, I don't want her to cover the hair because it looks like... Each husband, you don't know what's the juk in the mind of the husband, that he doesn't want his wife to be... Maybe he's afraid that she'll become more religious and she'll start becoming more distant from him. You don't know what the man is thinking. If you know how to tap into the mind of the man, then you know how to maybe change it. That's why I said there's no answer. There's ways to deal with it. So one man that I knew, there was a couple that I was trying to do the shlom bait in that department, And she kept saying, I want to cover my hair, I want to dress a certain way. When I was talking with the husband, I figured out that he was afraid that the more she becomes tznuah, when it's time for them to be intimate, she's going to want to not be so intimate with him. That was his... So you don't know, and you know what? When he figured out that has nothing to do with it, and when we reversed the problem, that he understood that has nothing to do with it. When it's time for the husband and wife to be together, everything is going to be fine. Then he was able to break his objection. So each one has a different... Why I know one couple, the man didn't have good parnasa. Every business he did, nothing worked out. Everything was a failure. And when I was able to explain to him that all your bracha is from your wife, and if you just put it to the test, and you'll see when your wife will cover her hair and she'll be more tznuah, you'll see you'll have bracha in your parnasa. And when the facts talk, then he was like, okay, I'll do it. So there is an etzah, there is an answer. You have to know what's the hitnagdut. So the way to work it is to find out why the husband is so anti. It must be something. Either because the way she looks, maybe he's afraid she's going to become too religious. A lot of husbands, they're afraid the woman will become too religious. Then I'm going to have to become religious, because if she's so religious, she's going to make me become more religious. You don't know what's going on in the man's mind. Oh, she's going to become now so machmir, so particular. Now she's going to be upset at me when I don't wake up and don't go and pray. You don't know what the man is going through. And usually when a man, it works the same way also with a woman, but usually when a man sees the woman becoming much more religious, he's afraid. He's like, wait a minute, now I'm going to have to speed it up with her. I don't want to. I'm good where I am. So you have to know how to pinpoint the problem. You know what I mean? When you know how to pinpoint the problem, then when you have the source, you have 50% of the solution. Unfortunately, that's a problem in our generation, but the thing is that every man, in business, they say every man has a price. So every man has something that is going to be the block, and something that will, okay, I'm giving up my block, my price. Person has a piece of real estate. He's like, I'm not going to sell it because it's a good investment. There's a price for everything. You come with the right price, he will sell it to you. Mm-hmm. So same with the emotional and spiritual. Everybody has their price. It all depends what they're willing to give. In most cases, the objection of husbands is because they feel they feel threatened in some way. Either she'll become more religious, I'll have to become more religious. Either she's going to become more modest, then I'm going to suffer when it comes to become intimate. Either it's going to happen, it's going to affect the kids. I don't want the kids to be so religious. You don't know. That's for sure. The Yetzer Hara becomes. But the thing is that here, one of the etzot is for the woman. If she can do it belevush, then do it b'machshava and do it b'dibur. And she'll already bring down at least the two levels of the garments of machshava and dibur. Later on it will lishtalshel, to articulate into levush. But the woman can do a lot. Has to start with the machshava. And the thing is, when a person does a change in his mind, any change can first originate in the machshava. Cannot do with dibur and maaseh. Has to start with the machshava.
I have to say, it's so true that it starts with the machshava. In my case, I remember one day going to the market, and at the time I was totally secular, and I was a dancer. I was a teacher of dancing, and I was dressed in my dancing wear. And an Israeli woman met me, and she said, you're so beautiful, but you're making men sin. What? She said, yes, by them looking at you and you're not dressed modest, you're making them sin. That was it, Rabbi. I packed 10 bags and I can tell you, I was married to a lawyer of lawyers. Everything was $400, $600, very expensive stuff. I packed up 10 bags And I called and I said, come pick them up before I change my mind. That was the end of my secular days. That I will make other people sin? No. That definitely starts
I'll
right
tell you a very interesting story with my wife, because both my wife and me are Baal Tshuva. So my wife grew up in America. She's American. Grew up very secular, very not modest, also a dancer. And then when we met, when she was in her 20s, she went to college. She met in college a rabbi, and she started slowly finding interest in it. But for 10 years, she was bouncing backwards and forth with religion. One time she's keeping Shabbat, one time not keeping Shabbat, one time eating kosher, one time not eating kosher, 10 years. And then when we went on our first date, I was already 70% religious. She was like 21.5% religious. But we're going on our first date, and she tells me, I heard you have a very interesting story how you became religious. So I told her my entire story how I became religious. Now, when some of you heard my lecture, when I go to a lecture, it's 3 hours, 4 hours. We had a 9-hour date. So she got the full version. Later on, she told me, the thing is that in the story of my experience, I say how that in one part, I was flying over my body, and it all happened in a car. My body was in a car, so the car was driving to the hospital, and I was like maybe the height of maybe 20, 30 floors, flying over the body and seeing the entire city. And I was like going through things because there wasn't any physicality. I was going through the buildings. So I was able to see in the buildings hundreds of people in the apartments, and not only see what's going on, but kind of tap into their mind and hear their thoughts and feel their feelings and everything. And thousands of people. So later on, my wife told me that from the entire story, that part with the building hit the nail on the spot. And she told me, you know what I realized? For 10 years, I had a problem with religion. Because I knew there's a God. I knew there's a God. I believed that, no problem. I knew I have a soul. I knew there's mitzvot. I knew everything. I believed it. But I had one question that nobody could answer me, which stopped me from becoming religious. And you solved the problem. And she told me, excuse me?
What is the question?
The question was very simple. She said, how can you explain that there's 7 billion people in the world, millions and trillions of animals and creatures, and you want to tell me that God knows me? How can He know so many people? And then she said, you know what? Forget about all the people in the world. Let's just concentrate on the Jews. Let's just concentrate on the religious Jews. You want to tell me that on Yom Kippur, 3 million people, maybe 4 million, maybe 5 million, all at the same moment are in a synagogue praying, and God can hear everybody? It can't be. No יכול להיות. It can't be. And if this is the case, means that He doesn't know me. And if this is the case, why should I bother? Why should I be dressed modest? He doesn't even know me. Why should I say a blessing when I eat? Does He really listen to my blessing? Why should I pray? Does He really listen? And she told me, when you told me you were flying like in the air and you saw thousands of people and you kind of like read their mind and felt their feeling, made me realize how so much more so, Melech Malchei Amlachim, the King of Kings, knows everything. And she told me, and that's what hit the nail on the spot. And the next day, you know what she did? Exactly how you said. She threw all her pants away, everything in bags, and put it away. And she told me, you know what? Because I realized that He's looking at me. Why should I you know what she told me? I felt naked. That God is looking at me and I'm not covered. So it's kind of the same like she had this realization. Wait a minute. I'm being looked by the Master of the universe is looking at me. She's like, I felt naked. I couldn't go with short pants anymore. Couldn't wear pants anymore because the master of the universe is looking at me. And she right away, she says that was the first thing. She threw all her pants, filled all the clothes in bags. She had a few dresses, a few shirts. So that's exactly it. When you internalize, when you understand, wait a minute, there's,
You really saw everybody's their house, what they do, and what.
More than that, not the house.
Jewish,
Everything, but not that I saw the pictures on the walls. I saw their thoughts, their emotions, their feelings. It's not that I saw pictures on the walls and I was like, oh, what a nice house. It's like as if me sitting here in this room and I know all of you what you're thinking and how was your day and what's your favorite color and what's your favorite fruit and how was your vacation last year and what's your emotion right now. This person is upset, that person is happy, that person is embarrassed, that person is angry. That's what I saw, not the walls and the pictures. That's the gashmiyut and has no metziut. It's more like the pnimiyut, the emotions. It's like as if I felt like, let's say you're now happy, you're excited, you got the best news ever. You're excited, you're happy. Doesn't matter what you're going to do. You can express what you feel at that moment. You can smile, you can scream, you can dance. You're not going to be able to transfer this joy to me because it's an emotion. And I was able to tap into these emotions that I would feel, wow, that person is depressed. Wow, that person can come and tell you that I'm so depressed today. This is not working out. That's not working out. You can feel for that person, but you don't feel their depression, their heaviness, their sadness. You can't feel it. We're bodies. You can't. You can relate, but you can't really feel it. And that's what I felt. I didn't see the physical part of the world. That disappeared. Hevel havalim. It's nothing.
But why would God let you see all those? What's the necessary of all this?
It's not necessarily me. All the souls see it. All the souls see it. There's no physicality, and there's no physical world. So every soul that goes up sees everything. It's not only me. Every soul that goes up will see the exact same thing. Yeah. Again, it's not really seeing. Because to see you need eyes, and it's not really hearing because you need ears. This is seeing and hearing is a very physical thing.
But they know what's
it's more like what's called a hasaga, grasping, like a dream. In a dream you don't see because your eyes are closed. And in a dream, if you notice, next time you dream, there's no voices in the dream. You don't talk in a dream. No. It's in your mind. It's in your mind. You don't move your lips in a dream. You understand. Try to meditate on a dream. There's no words in a dream. It's intellectual. It's like
telepathy.
Yeah.
No, but like when I dream, if I get scared, I can't scream. That's when I wake up usually. But I can speak.
Yeah, but this is in a dream is what's called hasaga, grasping. In a dream, you 1 second here, then you're there. Then you're with your best friend, but it doesn't look like your best friend. Then you're in your car, but it's not your car. And a dream is me'urpal. It's like a
foggy.
There's another word than foggy. It's
jumbo. It's jumbo.
So the thing is that in the dream, if you really meditate on a dream, you'll see that you understand everything, but it's not really you understand that right now you're in your home or you have a dream of your father. It doesn't even look like your father. Or, first of all, because 50% of the dream comes from a spiritual world and it has to connect to the physical machshava, for the thought. But in dreams, it's not a level, you don't see in a dream, you don't hear in a dream, you understand. It's a havana, hasaga, grasping. So the same thing with the neshama, magnified at 1,000,000. The soul doesn't need an ear. The soul can hear 50,000 conversations at the same time. It has no problem. It doesn't need ears. Doesn't need eyes to see. We need eyes, and we're physical, so I can only see from here to there. But once the soul leaves the body, and there's no other bodies, there's just this physical realm. So the soul sees everything, hears everything, knows everything. All the souls see it. And that's why souls can see from one side of the world to the other side of the world. They can see 50,000 scenes at the same time. They can see the past, can see the future. The soul is not limited. When the soul is in the body, then the soul is limited to the body. So I can only run a certain speed. And I can only see from here till the end of the block. And I can only hear a certain distance. That's it.
So that's why the Neshamot recognize everybody, what mitzvah he did.
Exactly, yeah.
What sin did that.
Yeah. That's one explanation. You know how they say, a lot of people say, oh, you know what, I feel my father that Chas v'Shalom passed away, I feel him next to me. Or, 20 years later, I saw somebody came to me in my dream or whatever. The thing is that when the soul leaves the world, the soul, this is something that our mind is hard to understand, but we are bound to time. The soul is not bound to time. So when the soul leaves the world, it sees years forward. So it's technically in that time, but it's in a realm that is beyond time. So sometimes the soul, is here, but it's already way past. In the spiritual realm, it already passed. That's why sometimes we say, there's many sources that says, for this and this sin, it's such and such amount of years in Gehenom, or such amount of years in Kafakela. It talks about punishments. But it says, what do you mean it's such a years? There's no comparison to the years in this world. There's no time in Shamayim. How can you say years? It's just a measurement for us to relate. There's no time in Shamayim. There's no Zman. When Hashem had to create the world, He had to create two things: Zman, time, and Makom, and space. Because in the spiritual realm, it's two things that there's no such thing in the spiritual realm. There's not time and there's not space. So the soul can be here and at the same time can be in 1,000 other places. So the soul can see whatever it wants, see whatever it wants, hear whatever it wants. Of course, if it has the permission. But yes, souls, that's how they recognize each other. There's no problem. The soul, imagine how intelligent you are in this world, magnify that 1,000,000. That's how intelligent the soul is. We're like literally retards. When the soul looks down, it's like you looking at two little kids, 2 years old, playing with Lego, and they get excited, and you're like, the soul looks at this world, it's like, Hevel Havalim. The soul is so advanced, and Bechlal, everything in the spiritual realm is so advanced, this world looks like a prehistoric planet.
If you would like to dedicate a class in honor of someone, please contact us via our website at www.atzmut.org. Please subscribe to this channel to be notified about new videos.
רק רציתי להגיד לך, ילדה שלי, אני רואה את דמעותיי, את ליבך המבקש.